So thank you, Anil, and thank you all of you for being here. And I'm truly honored to be a part of Soil. I've known Anil for I don't know how many years now. I think the first time I met him was at IIM Ahmedabad. This must have been about 25, 30 years back. Yeah. Mid-80s, yeah. And then I had I was fortunate to work with him when he was part of Aisha. I used to go and consult him and talk to him, free consultancy. Aisha not consultancy, but Aisha Motors. And then he started Aisha Consultancy, so he worked with us, and I'm sure that he has molded a lot of my thinking on the values part. And Anil, thanks a lot for being with me for so long. I still cherish those thoughts of working with you many, many years back. So, in terms of my speech today, I think it's a combination of two things: purpose of goodness and innovation. And I was trying to work out a basis on which how do I blend these two. So let me try that. I've never done this. Either I speak on purpose or I speak on innovation, but both, how do they interact and how do they work with each other is a challenge which is posed to me by Anish. So I would begin by saying that I think organizations have a purpose, and the business of business is more than business. And business is accountable not only to its shareholders but to all the stakeholders. And when I'm talking of stakeholders, I'm talking of its members. We call our employees members. To all the associates they're working with, to the consumers, and finally to the society, and as well as associates. So I'm saying there is a strong interlinkage between different stakeholders. And whenever organizations in the West have concentrated only on certain one or two stakeholders, it has led to big scams. Take the likes of Enron or some of the financial institutions which busted. I think either too much attention was given to some top managers in terms of ESOPs and or they only looked at their own shareholders. But I have a strong belief that if you give something to each stakeholder, it comes back to you. And there is a very strong interlinkage between all the stakeholders. And just to give an example, if I, as from management point of view, go overboard in terms of treating my members well, give that extra input in terms of training them, giving them your opportunities, they'll be far more motivated to stay with me. They'll be far more motivated to do a better job and far more engaged. And I think that will reflect in better results. If the results are good, the profits will increase. It will lead to increased scale, the shareholders will benefit, the associates will benefit. So anything you do for any stakeholder, and I can prove that there is this very strong linkage amongst all the stakeholders. And I am also saying the society, if you do something for the society, there may not be direct linkage, but indirect linkage in terms of what is the image of the organization in the society. That will help you attract better quality talent if you have a good image as a responsible corporate citizen. And if you're doing some good work, if you're good in the area of governance, it reflects back in terms of ability to attract talent. It reflects in terms of how the organization is perceived. It may help you in getting better networks, better collaborations, a better image with the government. So I'm saying that every organization has to look at all the stakeholders. If I do something for the associates, and we have a very clear mandate that for our key associates, we should treat our associates in the same manner as we treat our members. And that means that we should have their own yearly appraisal, they should have variable pay, we should invest in them in terms of training inputs, we should try and improve their productivity, because if they are better equipped, then again it will help us in terms of benefit costs. And there is one study which was done in that context by Raj Sisodia and Jagdish Sheth, and the book was published about a few years back, Forms of Endearment. And they have conclusively proven that organizations which were which had a purpose, which looked at all the stakeholders, the return they compared with good to great companies on the S&P index, and they overbeat it by a huge margin. So there is ample proof that organizations have to look at all the stakeholders, and they play a very, very important role in the society. So that's my part of the organization, that we talk about personal purpose, because I believe that every person, and I think Anil covered it in his speech earlier, has a purpose in life. And I don't know whether you've heard this. What are the two most important days in your life? Have you heard this?
The day you were born and the day you understand.
Yeah, I think you're right. The first is the day you were born. The second, many people guess, okay, the day I got married, the day I became father, the day I got whatever promoted to the chief executive. But I think there is a deeper second reason, and that is when you realize why you were born. And that search for realizing why you were born, many a times it may take years and years. And you have to constantly go on asking yourself why you were born. And I'm not saying every person should be born to do greatest thing, but even you may say that I want to be the best father in this world. And that particular, when you realize that, then that is far more sustainable than actually achieving some accolade or achieving some financial gains or getting promotion, all that. So I think the key challenge is, amongst all of us, is to decide and to go on exploring why you were born. And I think once you decide that and start working on that, that will give you far more energy, that will give you far more satisfaction than anything else you achieved in life. So that's my part of the purpose side. I may be very poor compared to Anil, because Anil has a lot of spiritual background to him. I don't have as much as I feel a little bit of spirituality, but nothing beyond that. So now let me go into now Marico's context and how I believe the culture in the organization helps innovation. And I'll go back to my own history in terms of the time I started working. I was not fortunate to do any management in terms of studies. I wanted to. My father, I couldn't get into at that time. Only IIM, Ahmedabad and Bajaj Institute of Management with them. I couldn't get into management. I wanted to go abroad. Can I do MBA abroad? My father, no way. And those days, I think as kids, we were far more obedient than today's kids. You know? If my children said today that I want to go, I can't stop them. So I, like a good boy, I just said, okay, he said, you just join the business and see what happens. So there was this Bombay Oil Industries, which was a small company, doing a turnover of about 5 crores. And it was managed by my father and his 3 brothers. So completely family managed organization. I was the first person from the next generation. So I was the first disruptor in that company, because I came with some different thoughts. And there were no professionals, even things like there were no appointment letters, nothing, just family, some trusted family friends, and then clinical staff. So I was at one level given, so nobody mentored me. I said, you can just do whatever you want to do. There are 3 different businesses. So I said, okay, let me just go and explore in terms of what's happening. So I visited all the factories, and I visited whatever customers. And then your first year went into just exploration of in terms of how a business is being done. And in that exploration journey, I realized that one of the profit centers, we were selling edible oils in bulk, mainly unbranded. And there were these 2 brands, Apollo and Parachute, but most of the sale was unbranded in big 15-liter tins or barrels. And the business was not doing that well. And I said to myself that if I can convert this business from unbranded to branded, I think that will get me a great opportunity to create a business which is sustainable and profitable. So how does that happen? I just took a car and started driving those days from Nagpur to Jalgaon all the way, and started appointing distributors and started retailing products. And I think that met with a very good response from the trade. And that I still remember those days when you actually made a sale, and that the kind of excitement it generated is still I can't get it at this stage, because it was amazing. The first experience of selling and creating a business. So that's how I started business, and over a period of time the business grew from virtually from 50 lakh bases at that time. The base was 50 lakhs. The business grew. And as the business grew, I started recruiting talent, started professionalizing, and maybe at that time I must have met in my search for, because when you are not an MBA and when you have to recruit a lot of MBAs, you have to be extra, I would say, you have to try much harder. So I read a lot of management books. I still go on reading books. I interact a lot with people who I respect, whom I can learn from. And that's how my journey in terms of learning has taken place. And I think that has really helped me in terms of being on top of in terms of what is happening in the area of management, and work with a lot of management students, management talent who are working with us. And I think that's how I was able to pull this up. So the business grew, and it reached a stage in around 1988 that I realized that this business is a part of Bombay Oil Industries, where there were 4 of my elders, that's my father and his 3 brothers. And by then 4 of my cousins joined business. There were 9 Mariwala in the business, and it was very difficult to attract talent because they would just shy away from entering the organization, or fear that, okay, rightfully, that there will be a lot of supporting relationships, and how will the family, with so many family members run the business. So I advocated to my elders, saying that, is it possible for me to manage this business as a separate company? And it took me 3 years to convince them, because at that time the business had grown from 5 crores, it grew to about 100 crores, and out of which 80 crores was contributed by the consumer products division, which I had built up over a period of time. So it was a major part of Bombay Oil Industries in terms of top line as well as bottom line. So it was difficult for them to accept that this could be a separate company where only me would be managing that business. And I wanted that freedom, and I said that I just want freedom to operate. I don't want a higher share in terms of ownership. Ownership would be the same as it is in the main company. So it took me 3 years, and I think looking back, that was a very, very important decision, because if I had not taken that step, it would have been very difficult for me to operate in a company with so many family members and with so different businesses which did not have any synergies. So many times, I think in key important initiatives, you need to have a lot of patience. And it took me 3 years, and looking back, I think those 3 years were fully invested. I could have fought with the family and, walked out of the family, and it could have led to a lot of bitterness, but the fact that it was resolved in an amicable manner over a period of 3 years, I think that, to me, that has been the most important decision in my life. But that set me into doing things which I wanted to do, and I was not constrained by a lot of other pressures coming in from different angles. So, Marico was born in 1990, and at that time, I had to recruit a whole team of mine. I didn't have a team, so within a period of 1 year, we had to recruit something like 30, 40 managers. And we didn't have too much money, because just to go to business with a very small share capital. So there were no reserves in Marico. And the key thing was how to attract talent with very limited resources. And at that time, I had briefed the advertising agency that we have to come out with a campaign which has to make waves in the job market. But I don't have much resources. I just have money for 2 ads. So I must say the ad agency came out with a brilliant campaign and targeting on 2 headlines: 200 employees walk out of Bombay Oil Industries. So there was a shock value. Then we also have a brand, Safola, which stands for good for art. So another headline was Mask Killer Nap. So the whole visual was very attractive, at one level had a lot of shock value. And I think that 2 insertions made a big impact. And at that time I realized that when you have high aspirations and low resources, I think innovation flourishes. So the limitation of having very limited money and very high impact in terms of how do you want to make an impact in the job market played a very, very important role in making these ads. And I think that enabled me to recruit those 30, 40 managers within a short period of time. And one of my first recruits was head of HR, because I said that I have to have somebody who is a green ball to me, somebody who is already in the corporate market. My target was companies like Levers, Asian Paints, and likes of that. So I recruited Jaswant, I think you know Jaswant, as head of HR, and that was my first recruit. And with him, he bought into my philosophy, and then he played a very important role in being an ambassador, and because of his own networks, we recruited something like 30, 40 managers. So what happens when you recruit 30 people from very diverse organizations, people from Tata's, people from multinationals, from Asian Paints, and put them in an organization within a very short period of time? First of all, there was no organization way of doing things. Everybody is coming in with his own baggage, his own set of beliefs. So we realized very quickly that this has become very chaotic, and it became a melting pot of different cultures. And that led to a realization that we need to define what we are standing for. So I wrote down those days, based on my past experience, a whole lot of things, about 20-30 pages of what we call values, what the organization stands for, what should be our approach in terms of dealing with people, what should be our approach in terms of dealing with profits, and what kind of products are we going to go into. And then random thoughts I shared with my team at that time, team reporting to me. And I must say that evoked a very positive response from them. I never knew what was the next, but I just said, okay, let me begin by involving them. So in that process, what happened was they also added that value. The whole document got a better structure in terms of people, products and profits. And we were all very excited by that. So what next? How do we take this further? And then at that time I had a Dr. Acharya, who was based out of Delhi. I said, how do we, and creating values is the easier part, and every organization, if you go, you see value statement. But converting those values from values to culture is more difficult. But how do you sustain that culture over a period of time is still more difficult. So we said that can we involve next 2 layers of management, and we call them to an outstation retreat. And we said that this is something which started from me, and now it's owned by me and my team, and we want the ownership to go to all of you. So we want your inputs in these values, and please tell us if there are any gaps, if you agree, don't agree. And we also use that opportunity in terms of identifying where are the gaps we have in the organization. If we have these values which are finalized now, what are the gaps we need to improve upon? And that 2-day exercise, I think, played a very important role. The biggest realization I had at the end of that 2 days was that when you involve people, you get their commitment. So many a times, a lot of people think that involvement means a lot of wastage of time. Participative style of management takes a lot of time, but for important organizational issues, it's very, very important to involve people. It may take a little longer time, but you will have commitment. And when you have commitment, it plays a very, very important role in the long term. So basically, at the end of those 2 days deliberation, I had 30 or 40 people at the top 2-3 layers saying that these are our values, and there was no cynicism amongst them, because in values, if somebody says that these are the values and practices something else, or if there is cynicism at the top 1 or 2 layers, it will just not take roots down the line. So what next then? So we said that can we actually share these values at all our locations? So I personally went to all our sales locations, all our factories, translated these values into the local languages, and talked to our workmen, talked to our other staff, saying that why are we doing this? And again, use that opportunity to basically form groups and get them critique in terms of what they think about these values. And more importantly, what do we need to improve? Where do we need to improve so that we create a strong culture? So that's how we started the values journey, and I must say that took very deep roots in terms of involving a lot of people. And the first 2-3 years, we got lots of ideas from these in terms of where do we need to make improvements. For example, the whole approach to our associates, we were looking at our associates from a very short-term point of view. Almost like, okay, today you're good, tomorrow you're fired. Our values mentioned about, okay, we need to have a long-term association with our associates. That means if you select the associate well, you need to work with them from a long-term point of view, and you need to treat them like partners, and you need to involve them in whatever you do. So I think, I'm just giving an example, that one area took a lot of energy in terms of our overall approach in terms of dealing with associates. So what are our values? In terms of people, we are a very open organization, very participative, very lean organization structure, highly trusting. There are clear guidelines for performance and non-performance. And we also look at mutually beneficial relationships with all our key associates. So how do you how do you drive an openness, for example? And how do you sustain it over a period of time? That was a big challenge. So we said that for any values to take deep roots, you need to reinforce them on a perpetual basis. Because unless they are reinforced on a perpetual basis, they will just, people will forget. So at that time we were going into a new office. So the brief given to the interior designer was that it should reflect openness. So he came out with a plan where everybody could see each other, what I was doing, what each manager was doing in the organization. Where else do we reinforce openness? So we have, from that time onwards, we have what we call an organization communication exercise at all our locations, at all our factories, at all our corporate locations, some like 15 or 20 locations. We have one full day wherein we share a lot of information with all our members in terms of what was the last year, what are our plans for next year. And there is a structured 1.5 hour open house where anybody can ask any question to the management in terms of any awkward questions. In the first few years, we had questions relating to this facility not being there, salaries are low, but last few years, not a single question of that. Most questions are, what is the organization going to cope up tomorrow's challenges? Where is it moving towards? How do we meet tomorrow's competitive threats and things like that? So again, one more opportunity to reinforce openness from different angles. We also send our managers to a 5-day training program, which promotes openness, and I'm sure you've heard of Managerial Great Program, which actually talks about what is the ideal leadership style, and that openness is very, very important if you want to get the best out of people. So when a person comes into the organization, a new person comes in, he realizes that this organization is different from a normal organization because it is very open. If I have some work with somebody else, one of my colleagues, I don't have to go through his secretary or anybody else, I can go directly. So there is no hierarchical way of doing things, it just goes directly to the right person concerned. I think openness promotes a lot of dialogue, and I think leads to innovation, because I think it's very important that innovation doesn't just happen in one creative mind, but if I get an idea, if I discuss with somebody else and then discuss with the third person, the whole idea evolves. So I think it's very important that openness plays a very, very important role in getting new ideas, discussing with others, and we want openness on an informal basis. One other value, trust. So how do you reinforce trust on a perpetual basis? So we said that we trust our members. So if they incur any expense statement, normally in most organizations you have to go to the boss to get authorization. We are leaving it to you. Whatever expense statement you incur on behalf of the company, you can self-authorize. No need to go to your boss. Then we said that normally again in terms of leave, there is privilege leave, there is sick leave, and there is casual leave. We said if you are sick, you are sick. No? So there is nothing like sick leave in the organization. If you are sick, you take your sick leave. There is nothing like casual leave. If you have some casual work, if you have to attend somebody's marriage or something. So we just have one privilege leave, and others are left to the individual concern. If you are sick for 15 days, you don't come for 15 days. If you are sick for 5 days, you don't come for 5 days. But there is no entitlement in terms of leave. I think that again reinforces their organization's trusting members. Then we said that can we also ask our managers and members to maintain their own leave records. Everybody maintains their own leave records. There is no muster in the organization. So again, reinforcing trust from different angles gives us a strong message to people that okay, this is trusting organization. And that's how a culture is created. And I think we've done a lot of things for each value. We dug deeper in terms of how do you create reinforcement. Now the biggest challenge comes in when over a period of time new employees come in, or when you acquire a new business, and especially in some other country, because you need to integrate those to your values. And so a new member coming in, he goes through a value training program, which is 1 to 2 days spent on the history of value creation and what are our key values. So it's very important to integrate again your members and newer acquired organizations to the values and the culture journey. So we have done over a period of time studies amongst our members, initially on a 4.18 over a 2.8 score. And after doing a lot of work, we got a score of 3.2. So basically you have to take the culture part very, very seriously, and every few years you need to go on measuring what is the culture. And again, you will see variation at different locations. At the corporate center, normally the culture is the strongest. And at decentralized locations, at factories, at sales location, there is a dilution of culture because it's not as strongly linked. as it is in corporate center. So the whole thing is, if you go on measuring that every 2 years, then you realize there are the gaps, and then you try and work on those gaps. So I talked about our culture, and I think culture has played a very, very important role in driving innovation. And I'll talk about a few innovations we've done. How much time do you have? No. You want to have Q&A or you want?
Some Q&A as well.
So you want about 20 minutes talk and then okay. At that time, and innovation is just not new products. I think many people think innovation is just new products. Innovation cuts across the whole organization. It cuts across processes, it cuts across manufacturing, every function. We wanted to set up a new factory at that time, and I'm talking of about 20 years back. And the best location in terms of logistics, cost of manufacturing came out to be Kerala. Now those days, and still I believe that Kerala is perceived to be a very, in terms of industrial relations, not a good state. So most of my friends, when I said that I want to set up a factory in Kerala, they said, forget it. If you set up a factory in Kerala, you'll do, because you will set up a factory, you think you'll make money, but half the time you'll have battles dealing with people. And at that time, we said that no, we are an innovative organization. Head of HR and head of operations came to me saying that no, everybody's saying no, but we are taking this up as a challenge and give us this opportunity. So what happened? First of all, open organization, empowered organization. They took the thing on their hands. Risk-taking organization. I said, okay, you take that risk. Come back to me. Why are you saying that you will succeed in Kerala? And I must say they came back with a master plan, which was saying that we will personally go and select workmen. We will go to their homes, we will talk to their parents and tell them our organization and what do we expect out of them. So involving parents in selection was the first part. Then the second realization inside they got was that workmen get bored, especially in smaller towns, after working hours. And that's the time they start indulging in union activities and all. So can we keep them occupied after working hours in something far more productive? So they formed, the whole factory was formed into 4 different houses, just like in school you have red, green, blue, whatever. And a lot of activities across sports, arts, culture. Saying you have an opportunity of doing anything, we will invest in them. But we want you to spend time in these activities. And once in a year, healthy competition amongst 4 different houses. So a lot of energy which normally goes into something which is unproductive in terms of unionism was channelized towards this. The third realization was that it's a monotonous job. So every day the worker comes in and then he has to go on doing the same thing. So can we change and rotate workmen every 3 months? So from that time onwards, every workman gets rotated, filling line, manufacturing line, different parts of the organization. So they are trained. So again that breaks monotony. So I'm saying that these various actions we took, we have not lost any production for the last 20 years. We got some awards from Kerala government. And that has actually given a huge return, financial return, because in terms of cost structure, it was very good. So I'm saying that innovation, thinking through how do you operate a factory has resulted in a huge gain for the organization because of this approach of doing it differently. I'll take one brand example. Parachute, I'm sure all of you heard. I'm sure many of you using that brand. It's, when I started Parachute, it was, the whole market of coconut oil was intense. So, beyond a point, we were not able to get the market share. And we got something like 15-20% market share by investments in the distribution network. But we said that if we have to actually become market leaders, we need to do something disruptive. And what can we do disruptive in a product like coconut oil, where there are limited opportunities for creating disruption in terms of quality of oil? We did all that. We improved the quality of fragrance and all that, but that took us up to a certain point. But we said that can we bring disruption through packaging? And at one level, very simplistic, can we convert the whole market from tin to plastic? Plastics at that time, and still they're cheaper than tins. they would be far more attractive than tins. It will be easier to pour for the consumer. So it looked like a clear winner. And normally in FMCG business, before you launch anything, you do insighting. So you go and find out. And I'm saying insighting is different than market research because I'm a strong believer more in insighting. Once in a while you do market research, but insighting is actually personally going and finding out. Because then if you do insighting, you get far more deeper understanding of the issues. So from the consumer end, everything was great. But we said one of the other stakeholders are retailers, you know. So we went to the retailer and we said that we want to do this, we want to come out with coconut oil plastics and we wanted to sell that. But there was a strong resistance from the retailers. They said nothing doing. Coconut oil will never sell in plastic. So we said, why? I said, because maybe 10 years before you came in, there was some other coconut oil player who launched in plastics. It was square-shaped bottle. And they did a poor job in terms of packaging, a lot of oil oozing out on the surface. And when the retailers closed the shop in the night and opened the shop next morning, all the coconut oil was rat-bitten because rats apparently love coconut oil. And it spoiled their shop. So they had a miserable experience with coconut oil in plastics. So we said we cannot give up like that. And we went to the drawing board, went to the packaging vendor saying that can you design a bottle which is difficult for the rat to bite. So again, that resulted in a rounded kind of shaped bottle. And can we do a better packaging job in terms of no oil coming out. So the rat should not be able to smell that there is coconut oil inside. And we did that packaging, but just by doing that, that would not be enough to the retailers. And we actually kept that bottles in rat cages for a few days. And we took pictures. And luckily nothing happened. And with those pictures we went to the trade. We said, now see, we have done a few days, we kept the coconut oil in rat bottles. They have not been able to buy it. So now please try, you know. And if something is there, we will bear the cost. Because we are confident that nothing will happen. So slowly, you know, we were able to break that resistance. Initially the percentage was very single digit. But every month we would go on tracking what is the plastic contribution. Plastic, our profitability was much higher than tins. So we invested that extra profits we were making in plastics in terms of more advertising of plastics. And a lot of effort went into converting from tin to plastic. And it took about 10 years for us. And I was personally tracking what is the plastic contribution every month. It was on our goal sheet starting from me down the line. And that played a very, very important role in getting market share. From a 20% market share, we jumped to be a market leader with 50% market share. And plastic played a very important role. So at one level, very basic, but the key learnings for me were that you should not give up when you have a good idea. You have to go on doing insighting. And any innovation, I think execution is very important. Just ideation is one, but the rigors, people don't associate rigor with innovation, but I think it is a very, very important role in creating the innovation. And if we didn't have the rigor of selling plastics and converting it into plastic, we would not have converted the market. And today, almost 100% of the market is plastics. Come winter, again, people would go back to tins because plastics freezes the coconut oil. So we had to come out with a wide mouth container with this spout. So we were able to prevent that. Now, as Parachute gained popularity, there were a lot of copycats. There were something like one study done on coffee, there were 100 copycats of Parachute. And we were losing something like 20% of our sales to this copycat because it's very difficult to nail them. So we said that can we actually do an innovation, again in packaging, which will prevent copycats to copy us. So we went to a mold maker in Europe and we came with a mold which was expensive. Costed those days, I'm talking about 15 years back, of 2 crore or so. And it was a combination of pilfer-proof and flip top. So we invested in those molds, and because of high capital investment, they were not able to copy. So all of a sudden, copycats vanished, and again our market share went up. In sachet segment, we had a very low market share. So we said, can we again do a disruption in sachet by coming out with a 1 rupee mini bottle? I don't know how many of you have seen it. It's 1 rupee bottle, which is our answer to sachet. And again, our market share went up. So I'm saying that even in a commodity kind of product, there are multiple opportunities if you dig deeper in terms of innovation. And I think if if I look back, innovation has played a very, very important role in parachute journey. And if we had not done all these multiple innovations, we would not have been where we are today. So, we went to Bangladesh about 10, 12 years back, and at that time when we went to Bangladesh, the whole market was fully intense. And we said, wow, this is fantastic. What we've done in India, we can do in Bangladesh. Mainly local players competition, big market. What we did in India in 8-10 years, we were able to crack that in Bangladesh in 3 or 4 years. Today we have 80% market share in Bangladesh. The whole market is plastics. We convert the whole market. And we are the largest Indian company in Bangladesh, quoted on Dhaka Stock Exchange. So again, we just copied these innovations and did it in a much shorter time frame because we had gone through an experience earlier. So it has helped us go internationally also and score victories there. In terms of culture, I think openness I talked about has played a very, very important role. Openness and boundarylessness. We believe in taking risks. It's okay to fail. The moment if you start punishing failures, in a way, people stop taking risks. Initially, when we realized that management trainees, when we took them from high schools, they were reluctant to take risks because they had a very good biodata and they didn't want any failure to appear on their biodata. So, and that was the reality. So we said that we will not give new product responsibility to trainees. We will only give it after 2 years once he's achieved something. But the initial phase he doesn't want to experience a failure, especially negative appearing on his biodata. So very flat structure, again promoting openness, a lot of cross-functional forums, and we believe that experiment more and validate less. So I think all that has played a very, very important role in our journey. In terms of innovation, what all do we do in terms of different processes? We believe that consumer insight is very important. So we actually train our managers in sales, marketing, R&D to do insighting. So actually, how do you go deep into consumers' mind, heart, and find out what are the unsatisfied needs? Many times the consumer himself doesn't know. So actually, we train people to go and identify those needs. We believe that mindset creation also is very important. We need to create the right mindset in the organization to take risks, to create routine. And many times, market research, as I mentioned, has limitations. So we believe that we need to, instead of doing too much research, we have to prototype that, take a small market, test out hypothesis. There is no way you can go on doing market research, and ultimately the proof of the pudding is actually being in the marketplace. So can you cut that process and prototype that in one small area? I think high collaboration is very important. For bigger initiatives, and I'm talking of disruptive innovation, which is the theme of the conference, I think it's very important to remove escape buttons. When I'm talking of escape buttons, I'm saying that if you have a big bang innovation, it's better to remove a dedicated team of individuals going after the big bang. Because if they have to do some other job, then there'll always be escape buttons. For example, it's not innovation, but I'm just giving examples of the escape button in our organization. We wanted to go international, and initially we were only selling in Nepal, and the whole international or the business was a part of the domestic marketing head's role. It was so small that it was just not getting the right attention. I said that this is just neglected. So can I take a full-time managers and give him only international business, reporting to me directly? Remove escape buttons, and the international business has grown from 0 to now it forms 25% of the turnover. When we had to actually launch an ERP package, many organizations, they combine regular responsibility and one more added responsibility of ERP. So your responsibility is to purchase plus do part-time ERP. We said, can we actually remove best quality talent and give them only responsibility on terms of ERP package design? So we removed about 8-10 managers, put them at different locations, and they came back within 9 months in terms of the ERP package. How do you launch it? We launched it across the organization, and we've never had problems. But if we had given that same thing as one more added responsibility, it would have had escape button. So I'm saying that disruptive innovation, big ideas, you need dedicated resources to remove escape buttons. disruptive innovation, there is a higher degree of uncertainty in terms of success. You need many more options. You need a lot of patience because disruptive is, I'm talking about true disruption. You have to, I think sometimes it may not succeed, so you need some commitment from the organization in terms of the resources you want to devote to disruptive innovation. It is a longer time frame and it has to have the attention of the top management. And scanning environment plays a very, very important role in disruptive innovation. I think at senior level, managers have to spend a lot of time in terms of what is happening in the environment. And many times it is a cross-fertilization, different technologies, different things which lead to disruptive innovation. I think persistence I talked about is very important to persist in terms of the execution. We also believe that exposure to thought leaders is very important. So we call thought leaders in the organization because that expands thinking within the organization. Initially, we also had in-house facilitation in terms of driving innovation. A lot of innovations have happened when people have traveled abroad to different fairs, seeing different things like the mold I'm talking of, or the 1 rupee mini bottle, which somebody went in abroad and then saw something in this room, can we do it, And finally, the top management responsibility, and the most important thing is to go on reinforcing innovation on a perpetual basis. So innovation is one of our values. So me as head of the organization, whenever the presentation is made to me about a brand, then they all know that I'm going to ask what is innovation in brand data. So there is a strong expectation created by top management in terms of innovation expectation down the line. We also reward in our organization communication exercise at all locations, we reward innovation. So the best 6 innovations are rewarded and the teams are called and they speak to the member that, okay, what are the innovations they've done? And many times some workman has done innovation in production line, he's come to the thing and talked about them. So again, reinforcing on innovation through talks, through expectation, I think that plays a very important role in creating the culture of innovation. So I think that has helped the organization over a period of time. Organization has grown from Indian to more international, from low margin to high margin, from low value add to high value add, from oils to FMCG products, and then to beauty and wellness solutions. So in terms of summing up, if I had to sum up some of the insights which I have covered in my talk, but let me just sum up the last panels. I think innovation leads to commitment. Sorry, involvement leads to commitment. Tell me and I will forget. Show me and I will remember. Involve me and I will understand. Strong culture can attract talent and self-corrects value of patience. And values need to be reinforced on a perpetual basis to create a strong culture. Culture building is a long-term exercise. It takes 3 to 5 years. And culture offers a competitive advantage because it is impossible to copy. You can copy somebody's technology, you can copy somebody's product, but culture is so difficult to describe, very, very difficult to copy. And a strong culture can drive organizational agendas like innovation, cost management. And as Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And culture is your company's #1 asset. And there is a very strong correlation between culture and strategy. Culture has to fit into the strategy. Culture has to be devised for helping you succeed in the business. In terms of innovation, innovation flourishes when there is a big gap between aspirations and resources. And innovation is beyond creativity. It needs collaboration, rigor, persistence, and resilience. And innovation people have played a very, very important role in this, my journey, my coach journey. And as leaders, I think every person has to ask every few years, what is your role? What you were doing in the past has shifted. So my role has over a period of time shifted. In the initial phases, I was doing things. As we grew and as we became public, I was getting things done. And now my role is to influence others. I don't even have to get things done. So influence others by talks, by speaking, and by interactions. So every few years, every person should ask, in my opinion, how can I make myself redundant in whatever I'm doing, but not abdicate those responsibilities. Arm them or make them aim with people who are better than you. So every time I relinquish some of my responsibility, I have ensured that the person who is actually succeeding me in that role is better than me. And I think that has played a very, very important role to organizational success. So I believe that your subordinate should be better than you in their roles. And there should not be any fear of failure. And finally, in terms of purpose, I think beyond threshold level, most entrepreneurs are not driven by monetary reasons. I think beyond a point, money doesn't play any role in it. I think they want to make an impact, and they want to give something